Welcome to Autodesk webinar 4th October 2017. I hope everyone can hear me and see my slide right now. So first, let me introduce myself. My name is Rifan Chaidra, and I'll be the presenter for today's webinar. And today I'll be accompanied by Cheng as well, my colleague, who will be helping me to answer some of your questions during the presentations. So as usual, if you have any questions during our presentations today, you can type your questions in the questions box. And you don't have to wait until the end of these presentations. Okay, and lastly, my colleague from customer loyalty teams, Jeffrey, will explain to you a little bit on move to subscriptions account things that you need to know later on the last few slides. So if you can stay until at the end of these presentations, you can get those informations later. Okay. Alright, so if you happen to miss our previous webinar sessions, you can find the recording in YouTube under Build Your Up and Ready Knowledge playlist. And on today's webinar, we'll be covering the topic of network license introduction and configurations. So we'll be sharing knowledge on network license overview, what are the types of the license server model, and network license setup. Okay, and we'll tell you on how you can actually generate your network license. Okay, lastly, like I've mentioned before, my colleague Jeffrey will explain a little bit on move to subscription scheme that we have recently. So you can stay until the end of these presentations and we'll get him to explain things that you need to know for M2S. Alright, before we move into a more detailed run through of network license configurations, let us get to know what is network license first. Okay, network license is one of Autodesk license type. As you may already know, we have a single users license and multi-users license, or we call it network license most of the time. Okay, network license allow many users in the same TCP/IP network to share access to the product licenses. Okay, network license managers installed on one or more server. It depends on your server model to control the distributions license to your users. Okay, so when you start your Autodesk products, it requests for a license from the license server through your network. So if a license is available, our network license managers, or we call it NLM, will assign a license to that particular computer. And the number of available license on the license server will be reduced by 1. So when you close that, vice versa, the license will be returned to NLM. Okay, and then just an additional note, connections between client and server on VPN connections is not supported by Autodesk. So if you have trouble connecting to your server on VPN, you might want to check with your IT or network admin for further assistance on that. All right, next we'll be looking at the server model here. We have a single license server type, distributed license server, and redundant license server. So each server model have its own advantages and disadvantages. So we'll cover this in the next few slides. Okay, single license server model is the most basic configurations available. So the network license manager is installed only on one server, which means all the license management and activity is restricted to one single location. So a single license file represents a total number license available on the server. So meaning if you have hundreds, you can actually put it in that one license file. Okay, the advantages for this is because our license management takes place on one server, you just have one point of administrator. So that means you have less point of failure. So it's only one point of failure. Okay. Out of the 3 license server models, these configurations require the least amount of maintenance. But the disadvantages, of course, are if this single server license fail, the Autodesk product cannot run until the server is back online. Okay, next, distributed license server model. Your software license are divided across more than one server. So each server contains a unique license file representing a portions of your total number of license. So the network license manager is installed on each server. So all the license activity and management is distributed among the server. So it depends on, for example, you have 30 AutoCADs, 30 Revit license, and you put in server A and server B. So the group of servers that make up of your distributed network is called server pool. Okay, advantages of this type of license server models. Server can be distributed across the wide area network and doesn't need to exist on the same subnet. So if one server in distributed server pools fails, the license on the remaining server will be still available. Okay, so if you need to replace a server in the distributed server model, you don't have to rebuild the entire pool, unlike a redundant server model. Okay, server replacement is easier than in redundant server pools where you must reactivate the entire pool. That means that you have to regenerate your license file again. So that's the difference between distributed and redundant server. Okay, disadvantages of this model is if the server in distributed server pools fail, the license on that particular server, for example, server A, is unavailable. All right. This model require more time for setup and maintenance than other model because you have to decide, which server will hold which license that you want. Okay, next, redundant license server model. All of your software licenses are configured on 3 different servers. So each server contains the same license file. So all of your software licenses are available on each server. So network license manager is installed on each server and can monitor and issue license as long as at least 2 of your 3 servers are functional. So these are the things that you have to take note. In redundant server license server models, all 3 servers must be located on the same subnet and have a consistent network communications. Otherwise, you will have a hard time in grabbing the license from the server pool. Okay, advantages. If one of the 3 server fails, all licenses that are managed in the server pool are still available. And disadvantages. If more than one server fails, no license are available. Okay, all 3 servers must reside on the same subnet, unlike distributed license server model, and you need to be having a stable network communications between server. So if one of the 3 server are replaced, complete redundant server pool must be rebuilt. So again, same thing. This means that you have to recreate a new license file for all 3 server, unlike a distributed server model. So it's a little bit different on that portions. All right, best practice in setting up network license. And you might have your own methods, but these are the normal practices that we always advise our customers. So first is download and install network license managers and make sure it's the latest one. And currently we are using versions 11, 13, 1, 2. Okay, and get your server information ready for your network license file. So these are the things that we need you to provide us, or if you want to self-service from your Autodesk accounts, you need this: host name, MAC address, and serial numbers. But serial numbers, if you are using your Autodesk account to generate network license file, you don't really need this because it's very straightforward. You can find it from the list itself. Okay, next, after you get your license file, you can configure your network license managers. And then this includes what kind of ports needs to be open as well from your server. Okay, and we'll cover that on the next slides. Lastly, additional server setup for advanced users such as option file, combining your license file, and using license parser tool to check your license file as well. So those are the things that you can use for your futures reference. All right, so first step is to download and install your network license managers into the machines. And it is advised by Autodesk, it's best for you to have the latest network license managers, which is 11.13.1.2. Okay, this is to avoid any additional issue in the futures for your latest product versions, such as 2017 and 2018 versions. If you're using old versions of LM tools, you might have a difficulty in grabbing license from the server pools because 2017 and 18 we are using the latest versions of LM tools. Okay, you can follow the link provided here in the slides to download our latest network license managers. Okay, and you can also go to our Autodesk Knowledge Network and you can just type download network license managers. It's very easy to find from the database itself. And then just a quick note, if you're not familiar with Mac and Linux command, we would suggest you to stick with Windows operating system as your server base. And if you're familiar with setting up network license managers before, you will understand why Windows is a lot easier compared to Macs and Linux. Because for Macs and Linux, after you get your license file, you still have to put some commands in the terminal windows for the tools to read your license file. So that's the difference between Mac and Windows. So of course, as compared to Windows operating system, you might need to put slightly more efforts on to getting your network license managers up and running for Mac and Linux. All right. So after downloading and installing your network license manager is successful, now you need your network license file. And as suggested and a few slides before, you need to get your server hostname, MAC address, and serial numbers. And here's how you can find your server hostname in the Windows and Mac. Okay, for Windows, you can go to Command Prompt and type that ipconflicts/all. Okay, and for Mac, you can type this command /lmutil lm host id minus hostname. That one is for hostname. And for your MAC address, you can type the second command without minus hostname. Okay, so once you have gotten your hostname and MAC address, you can log into your Autodesk account from a contract manager's account to generate your license file. Okay, so I can show it to you. Just give me a moment. Okay, and since this may contain customers' confidential information, let me show you from our article instead. Okay, so when you log into your account, you'll be able to generate network license file. Okay, and you can choose your license server model as well. Okay, after you're choosing your server models, for example, if you're using single server model, you need to key in the server name and MAC address. Okay, and for redundant server model, of course, you need to key in 3 server names and 3 MAC address of each server. Okay, distributed server models. It depends on how many server you have, but this is how it will look like on distributed server models from the account. Okay, once you have decided the MAC address, host name, then you can select which product you want to include in your network license file. Okay, and you can allocate how many license you want. So for example, if you want to divide some of your license in the distributed license server model, you can decide, for example, 3 Revit goes to server A and 10 AEC collections to the server B. You can do that. All right, then once you decided, you can get the license file and you can copy this and put it in the notepad, and don't forget to save it under .lic format. So if you are having issues with your generating network license file from your account, you can forward the same informations like I mentioned before, the host name, MAC address, and serial numbers, and you can get assistance from Autodesk support instead. So our registration and activations team will be able to help you on that portions. Okay, and once you have gotten your license file, you can copy it to here. These are the default path for each network license managers. So for Windows will be default to Autodesk network license managers. For Mac and Linux will be different. Alright, so once you have installed your network license managers and getting your network license file, you can proceed with your configurations. Okay, and let me just show you maybe just a simple one on how you can set it up. Okay. Okay, as I mentioned before, it's located in C Autodesk. Okay, network license managers. And you can launch this one, lmtools.exe. Okay, and you should be able to see this one. So what you need to do is you can go to config services, you can put your service name, sorry. Okay, then you can browse to lmgrd.exe. Just follow this one. Okay, path to lmgrd.exe. So this, once you click browse, these windows will appear. Okay, and you just need to choose the right one, click open. License file, it depends on where you put it. In this instance, I put it in C Autodesk license. Okay, and you can see there's a license file here. Okay, click open, same thing, click open. Then browse through debug log file. Debug log file you have to create first before you can detect. So you need to create a simple, empty notepad and change the extensions to .log. All right. So once that's done, you can specify a debug log file. This is very useful in the futures. If we are trying to troubleshoot your network license cascading behavior, this one can be one of them. Okay, or sometimes your option file, you have problem with your option file, we need your debug log file as well to take a look what went wrong there. And then if you are using redundant server, for example, your second server and third server is not working, we can actually check this by using a debug log as well. Okay, but this is just one of them. There are many ways that we can help you to find out why it went wrong. Okay, and take this to use services and start server at the power up. Okay, once that's done, you can click save services. Yes, and then you can go to server status and perform status inquiry. Okay, if you are able to see this, license server is up with the right versions of LM tools, meaning you're good to go. And you should be able to see all of the license is ready for your machines. All right, I think that's all for LM tools. But if you have any issues, you can always come to us. We can help you on that portions. Okay, and once done, it's done. Just make sure port 2080 is open for your Autodesk Network License Manager services. Okay, and you can follow this link to see on how to do that. Okay, and I can show it from my machines. Okay, you can just go to control panels, go to Windows Firewall. Just treat this as your server machines. Okay. Okay, you can click advanced settings, go to inbound rules. Okay, you can create a new rule and just specify which port you're trying to open. Okay, port, then you can put 2080 here, and you can put this one as well. just in case if you're not using these services, because some of our customer is actually using this port 27,000 to 27,009 for others license services. So these are the things that you can always modify. If you're not sure about this, you can always ask your IT admin on this one, just to double check which port they're using for which services. Okay, but the default one normally will just suggest this one first. Just make sure 2080 is open, click next, allow all the connections. Okay, for everything, domain, private and public, and you can just name it as what you want here. For example, or just Autodesk. Okay, click finish and you're good to go. Okay, and another thing is just make sure the license services is open as well. Okay, when you go to services.msc in Windows, you should be able to see that. Let me just show it to you. Okay, so my services for network license is actually AutoCAD LT 2017. So you just need to make sure this is started. Okay, and then your license server should be good to go after that. All right, that's all. Let's move on. So for Mac, we are not going to touch Macs because we don't really have another machines to try right now. So, but you can always refer to this link if you want to set it up under Mac or Linux. Okay, the rest are the same. The versions is always the same, 11, 13, 1, 2 as well. All right. This is some additional server setup that you can refer as well. If you want to combine license file, you can always go to this link. And then borrowing license, if you need to know how you can borrow license from the network server pool, you can always use this link as well. So you can borrow a network license file from some of Autodesk product. So borrowing means temporary removing a license from your network server and to use it as an offline license. So just like a standalone thing. Okay, and you can specify when the borrowing period begins and ends, but it normally it's limited to 6 months or the term of your subscription, so whichever is shorter, of course. Okay, and although an option file is not required, but you can gain more control over borrowing through option file entries. So option file, if you know how to use option file, you should very familiar with the command. Let me just show it to you. How does it looks like? Just a quick. Okay, so once you open the link, you should be able to see you can reserve this license to some department or a group of machines. So for example, engineering team, you want to give them a AutoCAD, specific AutoCAD to just to for this department, you can actually do that as well. Okay, so you can specify which group, engineering group. Okay, and we can use host group as well, meaning their machine name, because sometimes there can be two engineers using one machine, so sometimes we just put this as a host name instead for easier management. Okay, for example, you can reserve 5 AutoCAD to host group drafting department, something like that. Okay, all right, and that's for options file. Now let's move on to the license parser tools. This is very useful tools to see what you have in your license file. Okay, you can go to here, licenseparser.com, and you can browse your submit license file. Okay, submit license file, and then you should be able to see what you have in the account itself. Okay, so for this instance, you can see your serial number, your feature code, your expiration date, and then when it was issued. Okay. All right. And then next, I think we should move to the setup itself on the client machines. So once everything is set up and you have made sure the license server is up and running, you can proceed to the client machines who has the software itself, and you can, when this windows appears, you can choose use a network license. Okay, and you can submit the license server. So for example, in this case, you're using single license server model, so you can just put the port and server host name. Okay, and you can just ignore that 2080 as well if you want. Just put the host name. That should be good enough. So you don't really have to worry, whether you should put that 2080 port numbers or anything. You don't have to. Host name itself is proven that it works most of the time as well. So you don't really have to worry about that. So once you click done, you can double check whether your software is fetching from the right server pools. You can go to about manage license. Okay, but this is for AutoCAD. 3ds Max might have a little bit difference on how to find the license informations. Okay, and when you click license info, you can actually see the server name, license server name, then serial numbers and expiry date. Okay, and if you see on the screenshot number 4, you see a borrow button there. That's the borrow functions that I mentioned before. So you can actually click that and borrow the license. But you need to make sure if you want to borrow, and especially if you're a big corporate, just make sure you have notified your IT admin about this. Okay, because we don't want to get you to be misunderstood of these functions in the futures. All right, and if you have any persistent issue on your network license, you can always approach us. Okay, or you can also find the error message from our knowledge database. Okay, we have most of the error message there. You can find out on how to fix the issues, and if that's not working, you can always approach us. Okay, by raising a support request to us as per normal. All right, I'll hand over this portions to my colleague Jeffrey. Move to subscriptions. Okay, Jeffrey, you want to take over?
Hello, everyone. So just wanted to add this on top of what Rifan has presented with regards to network licensing. Um, so move to subscription. What exactly is move to subscription? So the move to subscription is a program and capability that went live back on 15th of June. This truly is a special offer to our current customers with perpetual licenses maintained on a maintenance plan, and it's an incentive for them to switch to a subscription, which is our current business model. So basically, what will happen is customers will give up those perpetual licenses and exchange them for a subscription of the same product or a different one for an ongoing discounted price. And the discount is a very substantial discounted price. Um, so why would you even consider subscription in the first place? So the biggest reason for customers to move to subscription, and the reason Autodesk is actually investing our development efforts and dollars in subscription, is the experience, customer experience. The subscription world is simply better and will continue to get better. We believe that only with subscription will we have a platform allowing us to continually connect with customers so that we can create for them a more personalized, custom, and valuable experience. Additionally, through this subscription platform, we're able to deliver our customers, as indicated in this slide, greater access, control, and insights into their Autodesk investment. So greater access meaning customers can get broad access to the latest and greatest tools, technologies, and services that they use today and in the future. So any updates and any hot fixes or even any improvements that will be released for the products, our subscription customers will be the first one to get those um, into their account or into their software. Control for customers to get access to what they need when they need it based on how tightly they need to manage users and costs. So with subscription, it allows customers to better manage who will be able to access the software, who will be able to access the benefits, and the type of cost based on the subscription term. and based on the project that they are going to use it for. Insights, where customers can leverage reporting and analytics across users and products to evaluate spend, productivity, and future needs. So, based on the subscription model, we are giving customers leverage on reporting and analytics to be able to better understand and plan for their futures. So switches from maintenance to subscriptions are transacted on your behalf by your reseller. So if you wish to move to subscription, kindly reach out to your resellers so that they can advise the path forward that is most beneficial for you and your business. They can explain or they can provide you more options and solutions based on your requirements, as well as which product would be best for you to move to. However, at the same time, here are some key points to be aware of when considering a switch. So number one, you will be required to give up your perpetual license and move to a subscription or term license. So basically, in the event that you already are decided and you decide to move to subscription, your current perpetual license will no longer be available or eligible for access. Second is you can continue using your already installed and activated previous versions from your maintenance plan for products included in the new subscription. So for example, you currently own a perpetual license for, let's say, AutoCAD, and you decide to move to subscription and subscribe to, for example, an AEC collection, which also includes AutoCAD. For example, in the event that you're using a previous version, let's say AutoCAD 2016 from your previous maintenance plan, even if you've already moved to a subscription, you may continue using this already installed and activated previous version, provided that it is still eligible in your new subscription, which is with the new subscription model, you are eligible to use any of the three versions or three previous versions from the current latest version. Third item to take note of is that you do not need to uninstall your software immediately, but you can continue using the installed software for products included in the subscription until you are ready to move. So again, for example, if you have, let's say, an AutoCAD software and decide with the perpetual license and decide to move to subscription, even if you've already moved, it is not necessary that you immediately uninstall the software that has the perpetual license. But instead, you can continue using that until your subscription is ready and have already started. At the same time, number four, subscriptions, particularly with single user access, will require internet connectivity and named user setup. So these are, we have several articles explaining this in our Autodesk Knowledge Network on how to assign or set up the named user, as well as the requirement of having internet connectivity before doing the installation and activation of the subscription license. And finally, last thing to note is that standalone licenses cannot be switched to network licenses and vice versa. So if your current perpetual license is a standalone license and you decide to move to subscription, then the move will be like a lateral movement wherein your new subscription license will still be standalone or single user license. You will not be able to move from standalone to network or network to standalone. And finally, you will likely have more questions about this offer. So this is more of just an introduction on what offerings we have. So for more questions such as how much does it cost, what can you switch to in terms of the products, and whether or not you have to reinstall your software and all those other questions. To be able to help answer these questions and more, we have created actually a move to subscription guide on the Autodesk Knowledge Network. The web address at the top of this slide, the information is organized around the customer's journey. So everything you need to know from before switching to subscription, from what subscription you will select, until completing your switch and managing your subscription once you have switched, are all highlighted there. So, of course, we provide customers on what you should be aware of before making a decision to switch, including the top 5 things that we've discussed in the previous slide. Then after that, once you've already decided to move forward, again, the selection on what type of subscription you will have as an option to switch to. After that, we also provide detailed steps on how to set up the new subscription and complete the switch. This section actually walks customers through the setup process that is unique to their specific scenario. So for example, our customers moving to a subscription with multi-user access, there's a separate article or instruction for that. If a customer moves to single user access, there's a separate instruction for that as well. And finally, to manage your subscription, this highlights key tasks for the administrator to be successful in the subscription world. So everything from managing their users to monitoring their subscription and their payment information are included there. You may bookmark this page and feel free to click on contact support on the right hand side if you have any questions on moving to subscription. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jeff. And we can move into Q&A section. Okay, and if you have any questions on Jeff explanations or my explanations, you can feel free to drop your questions in the questions box, and we'll answer it. Okay, and if you can't answer it on time, then we can always raise a support request for you, and we'll follow up with you accordingly. All right, let's start. Let me check the questions box right now.